You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 26. The night which sells a man's flesh at Mengzhou, Wusong meets Zhang Qing at the crossroads. Wusong spoke to the four neighbors, I have revenged my brother's injury, and I should feel no resentment if I had to die for it. I am sorry for having frightened you. I must leave now, but I do not know whether I shall live or die. I had better now get my brother's mourning curtain burnt. I however want you to sell all the furniture here, as I can make use of the money in the yamen when the case comes up. But whether the case is taken seriously or lightly, I hope that you will be my witnesses, and speak only the whole truth. He then took his brother's tablet and burnt it. Upstairs were 2 boxes which were accordingly brought below and opened, and he requested the neighbors to sell the contents. He then took the heads and escorted Grandma Wang to the yamen. The news of the murder had spread all over the town so that the streets were crowded with people. When the magistrate heard about the murder, he was surprised and got ready to hear the case. Upon Wusong entering the court with Grandma Wang under arrest, he knelt down in front of the bench and placed the 2 heads and his sword just below the steps leading to the bench. He knelt on the left, Grandma Wang in the center, and the 4 neighbors on the right. Wusong took the signed document from his breast and read it all out. The magistrate instructed the clerk of the court to cross-examine Grandma Wang, and her evidence agreed with the document. The 4 neighbors and also He Jiushu and the boy Yun Gu, who had also entered, gave their evidence quite straightforwardly. The magistrate then deputed an officer to go with the coroner and take all the persons concerned to the house on the Zisher Street and make a careful investigation there. They went to Wu the elder's house and afterwards to the wine shop near the Shitsi Bridge and examined the bodies of Pan Jinlian and Shimen Qing. All the details were recorded and, upon their return to the yamen, the same were duly reported to the magistrate. That official then ordered that large cangs be put on Wusong and also Grandma Wang, and that they be both sent to the jail, while the witnesses were to be detained in the waiting room near the entrance. Seeing that Wusong had been moved by his righteous spirit, and that he had done the business in the capital in a proper manner, the magistrate wished to save him from the trouble. So he consulted with his secretary. From the evidences I see that Wusong acted from a keen sense of justice, so I want you to rewrite those documents to the effect that as Wusong was paying homage to his late elder brother's memorial tablet, Pan Jinlian not only refused to let him worship, but knocked over the sacrificial table. Because of this, Wusong was very angry and attacked her, and in his passion he killed her. Also that Shimen Qing was a lover of Pan Jinlian, and when he heard of this he took the opportunity of meeting Wusong near the Shitsi Bridge, and there they fought. And in this fight Wusong killed his opponent. The secretary did this, and read the new documents to both the prisoners and also the witnesses, who were then sent to the prefect with a dispatch asking him to give judgment. Now Yanggu County was only a small place, but the inhabitants were very upright, so that many subscribed money to present to Wusong, while others sent wine and food to him in prison. Before his departure he was allowed to go to his quarters and pack up his things, and place them in charge of his orderlies. He also sent about 12 taels of silver to Yun Ji's old father. His soldiers even sent him food and wine as presents. The yamen officials took the necessary dispatches, and then sent them with the prisoners and witnesses to Dongping Prefecture. Upon reaching that place they found large crowds around the entrance to the yamen. The prefect, having been informed of the affair, took his seat on the bench. The prefect Shen Wenjiao was a very intelligent official, and after reading the dispatches and cross-examining the witnesses, he had the bones, dagger, and other material evidences sealed up and locked up in the storeroom. He ordered that Wusong's kang should be replaced by a much lighter one, and that he be remanded to prison. But on the other hand he ordered that Grandma Wang should have a much heavier kang fastened round her neck, and that she be sent to the prison where criminals were awaiting execution. He then told the official from Yanggu County that he could return, and that the witnesses also could return to their homes. The wife of Shimen Qing had also come to watch affairs, and she was ordered to remain in the prefect's yamen until the imperial authorities' decision was known. Prefect Shin knew that Wusong was a righteous and honest man, and from time to time he deputed men to look after him. For the same reason the jailers gave him food and wine without asking for any money. The prefect, in making his report to the provincial governor, made the case as trivial as possible. He then dispatched a confidential clerk to the capital with private letters, with instructions to arrange for the case to be settled. The official in charge of the Imperial Board of Punishments was on good terms with the prefect Shen Wenjiao, and he talked the case over with the provincial governor. Regarding Grandma Wang, she had beguiled them to commit adultery, and had instigated Pan Jinlian to poison her husband. She had told Pan Jinlian to send Wusong away, so that he could not sacrifice to his elder brother's spirit, and that was why he had killed Pan Jinlian. Grandma Wang had interfered between husband and wife, upsetting the harmony of married life, and should therefore suffer death by being sliced to death. 70. Regarding Wusong, he had killed the adulterer Shimen Qing out of revenge for his brother's death, but he could not be acquitted for his crime. He should be beaten 40 times with the bamboo, and then banished to the frontier. Both the adulterer and the adulteress had committed a grievous crime, and they deserved their deaths. The witnesses should all be allowed to return to their homes. The provincial governor wrote a judgment in accordance with the above, and dispatched it to the prefect, and the latter carried out the sentence accordingly. Grandma Wang was brought from her cell to hear her fate. The reason for execution was written on a signboard, and she was made to sign her acknowledgement. She was then seated on a wooden frame known as the donkey, tied to it with 3 ropes, and had 4 nails hammered through her limbs to the frame. The prefect gave the order to slice her, and she was paraded through the streets to the pounding of drums and the crash of gongs. Carried by bearers, with the signboard in front, and with a pair of sharp swords raised high, and with a bunch of paper flowers, she was taken to the square in the center of Dongping Market Square, where she was sliced to death. Wusong was beaten with 40 strokes, but the jailer saw to it that only 6 or 7 blows actually broke the skin. He was branded on the face, and sent to the prison at Mengzhou. He was escorted by 2 men who treated him well on the road, as they knew that he was a good man. Wusong saw that they were taking care of him, so he did not find fault with them. He had silver and gold in his bundle, from the sale of his possessions by the neighbor Yao Wenqing, and when they stopped at inns and villages on the way he paid all the expenses out of his purse. He had committed the murder at the beginning of the 3rd month, and after remaining under arrest for more than 2 months, it was now about the middle of the year, and the blazing sun was hot enough even to melt the gold in the quartz. Therefore they always walked during the early morning, when it was a little cool. After about 20 days on the way, the 3 men got on a big road, which took them over a mountain range. When they had reached the top of the pass, it was about 10 a.m., and as they were all tired, Wusong told his escort to take it easily, and to have a drink at the first inn when they got down the hill. They agreed to this, and hurried down the hill. They soon saw in the distance a hillock with a number of straw huts on it. There were some willow trees by the side of a stream, and flying from the top branches was a wine shop flag. They all hurried their steps down the road, and when they were near the bottom they met a woodcutter carrying a bundle of firewood. Wusong asked him what was the name of that place, and the man replied that it was called the Crossroad. When they reached the village they saw a gigantic tree with a trunk that 5 men could not have encircled, and hanging from it were dead creepers that had twined round its branches. A few steps away from the tree was an inn, and a woman was sitting inside near an open window. Her coat was of green gauze, and in her hair was a golden-colored hairpin. At both of her temples were flowers in the hair. When she saw the 3 men arriving, she got up to receive them at the door. They then saw that her short skirt was of brilliant red silk, and that she had red and white powder on her face. Her dress was open, exposing an inner pink cotton waist belt. On her dress were golden buttons. She welcomed them, saying, "Guests, please come inside and take rest. We have good wine, good meat, and excellent refreshment." The 3 men entered and sat down. The tables and stools were made of cedar wood. Wusong took off his bundle and placed it on the table. He removed his belt and outer garments and put them in the same place. The 2 soldiers saw that there was no man about to see what they were doing, and so they removed the kang from Wusong's neck and placed it under the table. They then also removed their outer garments and placed them on the windowsill. Now the woman with a smiling face asked how much wine they wanted. You need not ask how much, replied Wusong. You just keep on bringing it, and also bring about 5 jin of meat. I will pay you when we have finished. We have also very good dumplings. Then bring us about 40. She gladly went inside and soon brought out a large jar of wine, with 3 large cups, 3 pairs of chopsticks, 2 dishes of meat, and a basket of dumplings. The 2 soldiers partook of the meal, but Wusong took 1 dumpling and opening it looked inside and called out, "Is this human flesh or dog's flesh?" The woman laughed and replied, "Please do not make me laugh so much. In this peaceful empire and general tranquility, how could there be human flesh or dog's flesh in the dumplings? In our house we have never put anything in dumplings except beef." "I have traveled extensively," replied Wusong, "and I have heard that very few people dare pass the tree at this crossroad, that fat men are cut up for making the dumplings, whereas thin men are just killed and used for filling up the river." "Where did you hear that nonsense? It must be your own fabrication." "I see human hair in this dumpling, that look a lot like pubic hair, so I still have my doubts. How is it that there is no man in this place?" "My husband has gone to visit a friend and has not returned yet," she replied. "Then you must feel lonely in this dismal place." She laughed at this and said to herself, "Is this exile not to find death? He likes to flirt with me. You are really the moth that flies into flame only to get yourself burnt to death. I would not make trouble with you, but now I have a plan to deal with you." So she replied, "Don't try to flirt with me. Drink your wine, and then go and cool yourself under the tree. Or if you want to rest, you can rest in the inn." When Wusong heard this, he came to the conclusion that the woman had some bad intention, and he decided to put her to the test. So he remarked, "Woman, this wine is rather weak. If you have better wine, let us have it." "I have excellent wine with a lovely taste, but it does not look quite clear." "Splendid. The duller it is the better." The woman was laughing at this in secret, and going inside she took out a jug of dark-colored wine on a tray. Seeing this, Wusong said, "This is really good wine, but it would taste better when warmed." The woman said, "This gentleman is indeed an experienced drinker, I will warm it for you." Laughingly she added to herself, "That banished thief ought to die now, as he wishes to drink hot wine which will make the medicine soon produce the desired effect. That fellow will soon be in my hands." When the wine was warmed she took it in, and poured out 3 cups full. Laughingly she said, "Gentlemen, please try this wine." How could those 2 soldiers restrain their thirst? They fell to the wine immediately. Wusong said, "I am not used to drinking pure wine. Please bring us some meat to eat with this wine." When the woman had gone to do this, he scattered the wine on the floor in a place where it could not be seen, and then making the sound of drinking, he said, "What good wine. It certainly has a kick in it." But the woman had not gone to bring the meat, and just then returning she clapped her hands and called out, "At last." At last, when she saw that the 2 soldiers who had drunk the wine had fallen backwards with tightly closed mouths. Wusong then closed his eyes and intentionally fell off his stool, and he heard the woman laugh and say, "That's all right. I am not afraid of you cunning devils now that you have drunk the water in which I washed my feet. Come, small 2 and small 3. He then heard 2 stupid fellows rush in and seize the 2 soldiers and carry them into the inner room. The woman came and took the bundles and belts lying on the table. She felt the silver inside and laughingly said, "I have got 3 men today, so that I shall be able to make plenty of dumplings. I get plenty of booty too." She took the belts and bundles away, and upon returning she ordered the 2 stupid fools to carry Wusong inside also. But Wusong lay rigidly flat on the ground so that they could not move him. The woman seeing this abused them, "What stupid clowns! You eat and drink, but are of no use for anything else. Do you expect me to pick him up? Does this big fellow expect to play with me? Such stout flesh will sell as yellow beef, but those 2 soldiers are so thin that they can only be put to vend as water buffalo beef. But we must carry this man inside, as I will kill him first." So saying, she took off her coat of green gauze and skirt of red silk, so that she was entirely naked above the waist, and she took hold of Wusong to lift him up. But as she stooped down, Wusong embraced her and pressed her to his breast. He twined both his legs round the lower part of her body and held her tight. She squealed like a pig going to be slaughtered. The two fellows were on the point of coming to her assistance, but Wusong shouted at them in such a loud voice that they could not move. The woman, feeling helpless, called out, "Sir, please forgive me." But he would not release her. Just then he saw a man set down a load of firewood at the door to rest a while. When he saw the pair on the floor, he sprang forward and said, "Sir, restrain your anger. Whether I travel or stay at home, I do not change my name. I am drill instructor Wusong." "So are you the man who killed a tiger on Jingyong Ridge?" "Certainly." The man knelt down and kowtowed, saying, "I have heard of your fame for a long time, and today I fortunately meet you." "Are you the husband of this woman?" "Yes, I am sorry that I did not recognize you. I do not know how my wife offended you, but I hope that you will forgive her." Wusong lifted the woman up and said, "I see that you two, husband and wife, are not average people. What is your name?" The woman went and put on her dress again, and then came and kowtowed to Wusong, who said to her, "Excuse my intrusion. Please do not blame me. I did not notice that you are a fine man. It was my mistake of a moment. I hope that you will forgive me. I request you to come inside and take a seat." "But what is your name, and how do you get to know my name?" "My name is Zhang Qing," said the man, "and previously I was in charge of the vegetable garden of the Guangming monastery near here. At one time, in a fit of temper, I killed the monks and burnt down the monastery. After that I had no enemies, and as the officials did not come here to investigate the matter, I started business as a highwayman. One day an old man passed here carrying a load of fuel, and I attacked him. We had about 20 bouts, but at last that old man knocked me down. As a matter of fact, that man had himself been a highwayman some time before, and he took me to his home in the town, and there taught me all the tricks of the trade. While there he induced me to marry this woman who was his daughter. But I did not care to live in the town, so I came here, erected this house, and opened it as an inn. But in fact I am on the lookout for the rich people to intoxicate them with a drug, and when they are unconscious I cut off their flesh, and sell it as beef, and mince the smaller bits to put inside the dumplings. Every day I take the flesh to the village for sale, and this has been going on for a long time. I am on intimate terms with many brigands, and they call me Market Gardener Zhang Qing. My wife has the surname Sun, but people always call her Sun the Night Witch. Upon returning to my home just now I heard my wife shrieking, but did not expect to meet you, drill instructor. I have repeatedly told my wife that there were 3 types of men whom she must not harm. First, traveling monks, they lead a thrifty life, and moreover are homeless. How can we harm such poor people? Once we nearly destroyed a celebrated man. This was Major Luda, who was in the army of the General Old Zhong at Yan'an Prefecture, and who killed the butcher Jingguanqi, and became a monk at Mount Wutai. He had figures tattooed on his back, and is therefore known by brigands and others as the tattooed monk Luda Jishan. He carried an iron monk staff of 60 jin weight, and passed here at one time. My wife, seeing that he was a big man and very stout, put a drug in his wine, and was going to have him carried into the next room to be killed when I just arrived. I have often heard of the fame of those 2 men, said Wusong. There was another monk that my wife drugged. What a pity that a giant monk should have died. I came back too late when his legs and arms had been cut off. But I kept his iron crown, his monk's gown, and his monk's certificate. But these are of no importance when compared with the 2 other things I have kept. I have his string of beads made from the bones of the 108 skulls, and also his 2 wonderful broadswords. Because of these things I think that monk must have killed a good many people, and even now his sword makes a hissing sound in the night. I was sorry that I could not save his life, and I often still think of him. Secondly, there are the journeying prostitutes who wander about from place to place, and carefully adapt themselves to the company they meet. Their money is hard-earned. If we kill them, then many people are bound to get to know about it, and we should have the reputation of not being very brave men. So I instructed my wife not to kill such women. Thirdly, there are the banished prisoners, among whom there are often very fine men, and they also must not be killed. I never thought that my wife would not pay attention to what I said, and so she commit the fault of seizing you, drill instructor, and fortunately I came back in time to save your life. Turning to his wife, he asked, "How is it that you had such an idea today?" "At first I did not intend to hurt this man," said the night witch. "But I saw that he had a very heavy bundle, and also he talked as though he had the intention of flirting with me. I killed vile people and shed their blood," said Wu Song, "so how could I dally with an honest woman? I saw that you were taking a keen interest in my bundle, so I became suspicious, and intentionally spoke lightly so that you would think I should easily fall into your hands. I poured the wine on the ground, and pretended to be poisoned, and you quickly came and seized hold of me. So I took hold of you at the same time. I hope that you will pardon me." Upon hearing this, Zhang Qing burst into loud laughter, and then invited Wu Song to come and sit down in an inner room. Wu Song, however, asked that his escort should be released. Upon going into the kitchen where men's flesh was prepared, he saw men's skins stretched out on the walls. Hanging from the rafters were several men's legs, and the two soldiers were stretched out on a bench. Wu Song said, "Brother, please enable these two men to get up." "What was your crime, and to what place are you going?" asked Zhang Qing. Wu Song then told him in detail how he had killed both Shiman Qing and Pan Jinlian. Both Zhang Qing and his wife were pleased upon hearing the details, and the former said, "I should like to tell you something, but I wonder if you would like to listen to it." Wu Song asked him to proceed, and Zhang Qing spoke slowly and deliberately what we will now recount. A man with strength of elephants. By Tiger Slayer defeated. Footnote. 70 Ling Chi, or slicing, was more commonly known in the West as the death by 1,000 cuts.